Good evening. This meeting of the School Board of Alachua County is called to order. Welcome to the May 5th date of the School Board, and we'll ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
And I'd like to make sure that we understand that we are adding action item H3, administrative appointments.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the date of April 7th, 2015 school board meeting?
So moved. And second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Griffin and second by Mrs. Roy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Approval of minutes for April 21st, 2015 ESE Department update.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Hyatt has moved and Roy second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of minutes April 21st, 2015 school board meeting.
So moved. And second.
All right, moved by Mrs. Griffin and second by Mrs. Roy. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Tonight, we have two scheduled agencies that will be presenting, and we're starting now with Waldo Community School PTO, Leela Powell, and Susan Thomas. Welcome.
We lost the remote. There it is. We're just waiting for the TVs to come on. They should
Okay.
be coming on shortly. Okay, well, while they're coming on, just wanted to say thank you very much, and we appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you this evening. My name's Leela Powell, and I'm a teacher at Waldo Community School, and this is Susan Thomas, who's also a teacher at the school. We also are here representing not only our PTO, but also community members, as well as the input that we're sharing tonight isn't just coming from us two, it's coming from community members that we have spoken with as well. We really are excited to hear recommendations to improve early childhood education and hearing about emphasis in areas of science and technology, also increasing parent involvement through the Parent Academy. All of those are excellent areas to focus our resources and continue to improve education for students in Alachua County. Again, thank you for your time, and our goal for this presentation is to highlight the positive things that are already occurring at Waldo Community School, as well as sharing questions and concerns from the community regarding possible consolidation. We hope that you will listen with an open mind. The picture seen here shows our students, faculty, staff, and many community members. What you can't see is that it took our principal, Mrs. Burton, less than a minute to have everybody's attention with the simple raise of her hand. I don't know about you, but with my little family of 5, the last time we took a family picture, it took quite a bit longer than a minute to have all 5 people facing the same direction with their cheese faces on. The reason that we're sharing this with you is that it highlights the level of respect that our students have. Waldo Community School is leading the way for Alachua County with the Leader in Me 7 Habits of Happy Kids program. This program teaches kids important life lessons while simultaneously improving academic achievement. We teach kids to strive for progress, not perfection. Using this model, students clearly see their individual progress through data chats. These data chats transfer into powerful goal-setting experiences, as well as high-quality differentiated instruction from the teacher. One quick example of what I do in my classroom, and I know many other teachers do as well, is when the students have finished an assessment, they make a bar graph showing what their score was. And if it's 80% or above, it's celebrated. If it's a 100%, they can earn a CAUT slip, which is just caught doing good, and it enters them in a weekly drawing for our friend Mr. Barry Dogood.
We can have some of the CAUT slips.
Yes, and you have some of the CAUT slips in your packet, and the stickers that they receive. So just so that you understand, it's not just a fluff and stuff feel-good program, that it's very data-driven and research-based to help combine the social skills with the academic needs. So that was just a little example from my classroom of how we graph the data and then celebrate and also make a plan for improvement when it's less than 80%. The 7 Habits of Happy Kids program has been shared with you via email, and I hope that you've taken the time to look at it and see what a valuable program it is. I know Miss April has taken the opportunity to see some of those schools in action. It's a research and evidence-based program, and it's spreading across the globe. There's a great deal of community and business buy-in, and at Waldo we're at our 2nd year of a generic version. So we've basically read the research and done everything that we can to implement it without the brand name. As we all know, brand names can be kind of expensive, so we're doing the best we can with the resources that we have. And PTO has started raising funds to purchase the brand name program, which hopefully we'll be able to do in the future. This map shows the 2,056 schools worldwide in the Leader in Me process. The blue points represent the 127 lighthouse schools that have implemented the program for 3 years and met rigorous criteria to earn the distinction of being a lighthouse school. I know the points aren't that easy to see because of the nature of the graphic, but you can also access this from the Leader in Me website that was shared with you. Here's Florida, Leader in Me in our own backyard. There are a small handful of lighthouse schools in Florida and about 30 across the state working their way to earn that title. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to look at those things that we've shared that further illustrate that this program has been the turnaround needed for many schools. The point of sharing the widespread implementation is to further prove the program's merit and viability. One of my favorite stories was the story of English Estates in Fern Park. It was cited as being the most academically improved in the district after only 1 year of implementation. As a member of the Waldo team that toured Wards Creek in St. Augustine, this was the Title I professional development field trip that our school and a few other schools in our county participated in, and I was a member of the team that got to go. I was certainly impressed by the poise and confidence that the students demonstrated. Furthermore, their positive academic and behavioral data lined their walls and bulletin boards. One of the most significant impacts for me was listening and sharing with teachers from other schools that serve children of low socioeconomic status. Many of these teachers were equally impressed by Wards Creek, yet they were hesitant to believe that it could work for their kids. Hearing teachers searching for answers of how to meet the growing needs of their underprivileged students is always heart-wrenching. Barbara Colaros has often been quoted for saying, "When children come to us from strong, healthy, functioning families, it makes our job easier. If they do not come to us from strong, healthy, functioning families, it makes our job more important." I was proud beyond measure to share how the Leader in Me model is working for us at Waldo Community School. At Waldo Community, we are already implementing a great many pieces of this program without the brand name. Our hope is that you will allow Waldo to remain open and continue the mission that we have started. When kids learn to be proactive, they take responsibility for their behavioral and academic goals. Rather than listening to kids say, "Well, I failed because I'm stupid," we hear kids say, "I know I need to study and I need to ask for help when I don't get it." Instead of hearing kids say, "It's my way or the highway," we hear, "Let's work together and make a plan." It shifts the student's locus of control from external, "it's all your fault," to internal, It's up to me to make a change. These children are our future leaders. This program can have a significantly positive impact, not only on our current student body, but on the community over time. Now that you know a little background about the program, check this out. These positive figures speak for themselves. While Waldo certainly does have room to improve by increasing enrollment and standardized test scores, closing the school is kind of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Hopefully, these positive figures will help you see that Waldo Community School is a school worth saving. One of our biggest bragging rights is that we went the first 8 weeks of school referral free. This is a really big deal. This shows on-task time in the classroom. Teachers know that on-task time in the classroom translates to higher achievement scores. Furthermore, the 2014-15 school year, we had 0 bus discipline referrals. As you know, the busing is a big issue for many community members and parents. It's a great area of concern. Looking at this data, they know that their kids are not coming into contact with harmful, negative behavioral influences on the bus. And they're concerned that that will change when the length of their rides increase, the number of students, and also students who are in middle school and high school. And that's a very real concern for parents. So now we're looking at some more exciting data from our school, the Fast Forward data. The recently implemented Fast Forward program shows that our students are working hard to meet and exceed grade level expectations. This program began use at 6 of the most high-need schools in January. A huge part of our success is our teachers. As students progress in games, teachers study the data and intervene as necessary, just as they would if the skills were being taught in the classroom without the aid of a computer. Furthermore, because we are a small school, 100% of our children reap the benefits of using this program. Due to time, space, and other funding constraints, this is not the case at all 6 schools where the program is being used. Other schools are only able to utilize Fast Forward with their lower quartile or a % of their students. Since implementation in January, we are proud to report that 43% of our students are showing over a year's worth of growth in 25 instructional days. It is my understanding that the Fast Forward program will continue use next year. This positive data shows our kids at Waldo will be reaching grade level expectations, which was one of the factors influencing the possible consolidation. However, as the projected student body at Shell grows, the viability of school-wide implementation of the Fast Forward program decreases. So the quality of education is to be improved, but this seems like a possible loss for our students since it's more likely that only a portion of the student body will be able to use the program due to size and size constraints.
So I wanted to take a few minutes and look at why do we struggle, and kindergarten readiness is one of those reasons, and we applaud Dr. Roberts for realizing this and taking measures to help with kindergarten readiness. But no matter what, whether our kids are bused to Shell or if they stay at Waldo or Lake Forest, currently they're not ready. So we cannot do anything right now about their kindergarten readiness. Only once they come into our classroom, what are we going to do? So my question is, when we think about the struggles in kindergarten readiness, how will this be influenced by the long bus rides? How are these kindergartners who will be spending in first graders, how are they going to be affected by those bus rides again? Another point is parental involvement. We know that parental involvement in everyday activities is important, checking homework. Again, when we consider our school day and the length of the school day that we're extending here. How much time are those parents going to have to be involved in the everyday activities of their children? Also, in the activities that happen at school, whether it's during school hours or after school, events like we're going to have on Thursday where we're having a parent involvement night. Are those parents going to be able to get to Shell or Lake Forest due to time restraints as well as economics? The third point would be a larger percent of free and reduced lunch. As our students are combined with Shell or Lake Forest, this number only seems like it will go up. We're not being spread out across the district. A lot of parents who can, more affluent families, are opting out for programs like Florida Virtual School, private schools in out of county. So this number is just going to kind of compound the problem as we mix those two populations together and take certain students out. We know these are reasons that students in schools tend to struggle, and it seems like we're just compounding that factor together. The last point would be magnets and school choice opportunity. I am not against magnets in our county or school choice and opportunity. I looked at a school that is in a neighboring county, and they're 9 miles from our school, pretty similar population. And I looked to see, I actually asked how many students are pulled from their student population, and they said currently only 9 students opt to go somewhere else who are zoned for that school. This is according to their school. I don't have the data with me. I do know that our school has multiple students who are choosing to go to other schools, perhaps magnets, like gifted magnet programs, taking advantage of the opportunity scholarships, and also school choice, maybe due to childcare, maybe due to parent jobs, whatever the case may be. Those parents are probably involved parents. We're taking those parents out of our population, therefore we struggle, and we're going to continue to take those out as we merge these schools and parents are able to opt out again for Florida Virtual School, private, and out of county. The recommendation to close Waldo Community School came as quite a shock. We are 7 years away from our centennial celebration. Along the way, we know you have seen a great deal of parent and community support for our school. Also included in your packet is a Gainesville Sun article by Bill Maxwell. It's entitled, "Waldo School Provides the Right Mix for Its Rural Students." It's in the back of your packet. While the article is from 1992, it still rings true for our school. We hope you'll take the time to read about how Waldo provided what kids needed then, and we know that is what we aim to continue to do now and into the future. We could go on all night about the great place that Waldo Community School is, but we need to be sure to address concerns regarding the proposed consolidation. The March 2nd Amendment took the Waldo community by surprise, especially on the heels of seemingly a positive neighborhood-style meeting in December, where the superintendent and board members actively listened to community input regarding facilities, parent involvement, student learning, and safety at Waldo Community School. Especially apparent at that meeting was a significant level of concern regarding students leaving Waldo Community School and transitioning to Hawthorne Middle and High. At that time, both the distance and reputation of Hawthorne were discussed. It is also important to note that the evening announcement to a packed auditorium of parents, community members, and students was the night before the high-stakes FSA testing. The proposed perks being offered at Shell are not meaningful. Kids already have 40 minutes of art, music, PE, media, and computer lab per week. We know that we're not projected to meet that 400, but Dr. Roberts had said that we would be offered full-time art, media, and PE. But even at that, we're already receiving 40 minutes per week for art, media, and PE, and computer lab. Changing to full-time special area teaching positions does not give the kids any more time in those classroom areas. Families that were invited to magnets missed deadlines. And now those children's options have been unfairly reduced. It's not fair. Nor is it just to ask parents to trust a plan that they feel puts their children in harm's way. Also, since the proposal to rezone the Fairbanks area to Lake Forest, no mention has been made of the perks to be offered to Lake Forest. Take a moment and put yourself in a child's shoes. The original plan had all of Waldo combining with Shell. While difficult, at least they'd have familiar faces and friends. Now about 30 to 40 students will be merged into nearly 400 pupil student body at Lake Forest. The chances of seeing a familiar face are slim. Is that what you would want for your child? In order to meet the need of their children, parents are looking into other options. This in turn will lead to reducing the expected size of the student body at each school and therefore the amount of funding available. This possible consolidation is breaking the hearts of our children. They are being uprooted for the sake of meeting a bottom line, which in actuality is a mere drop in the bucket. They are being put on buses in a tune of $408 per rider in order to increase revenue for the county. Some members of the community feel very strongly that the county is looking to build new West Side schools, and this is a motivating factor in closing Waldo. Some have the perception that it is too expensive to educate the children at Waldo because per pupil spending was cited as a reason for consolidation, and they believe that the county would rather not support students requiring financial resources above the amount provided by the state funding. There were several questions regarding the budget impact estimates given at the April 1st Waldo workshop that have not been clarified. Some of the issues were brought up at the meeting, and others have been emailed afterward. As previously stated, parents are pleased with the educational experience at Waldo. You have the results of the climate survey sent home by the district. We had 76 surveys returned from our school body of less than 200. This shows parents willing to take the time to share their thoughts about the school. You can see that the results are overwhelmingly positive. For parents, it is baffling to think that combining our school with schools that have marginally worse school grades will provide a better quality education for their students. Rumors are also circulating about closing more East Side schools in the future due to higher than average pure pupil spending, declining enrollment trends, and poor performance on standardized tests. This is why Waldo's been targeted, and for these reasons, people believe that other schools might be targeted. Knowing this information, many families have already begun to pursue more stable school environments for their children, including Florida Virtual School, Bradford County schools, private schools like St. Patrick's, and charter school options. This in turn could cause the enrollment at Shell and Lake Forest to decline over time.
So while children are certainly resilient, it's a misconception to think that they won't suffer somewhat if this consolidation is approved. Families have yet to hear how exactly the quality of education will be better at Shell or Lake Forest. Furthermore, rezoning the Fairbanks area to Lake Forest further divides that family of students at Waldo. Children from the Fairbanks area may end up without a familiar face or a friend to start the school year. Extended families also share caregiver duties in our community. For example, one child in my classroom walks to school in the morning, but she catches the bus to Grandma's house in Fairbanks in the afternoon until her parents are done with school and work. Other families have an aunt who lives in Waldo, but the other cousins live in Fairbanks, and they share those duties. So by dividing that community, it puts an additional burden on those parents and families to take care of their children. At our most recent parent involvement event, Day to Day, and I believe I've already shared this with you via email, I had 6 of my approximately 20 students participate. Of those 6, 2 families walked. They were representing not only their children in my classroom, but children in grade levels above, below, and at Head Start. So to think that the parents of children who walk to school are the parents who are not involved is a misconception. We have many families who don't have transportation resources that are highly involved in their children's academic career because they can walk to the school. They do walk them in every morning. They check in with the teacher and touch base. So I'd like to address that misconception that I've heard and that I heard was addressed at the DAC, that the kids who are walking are the ones who aren't having the most parent involvement. And I'd like to clarify from a teacher standpoint that many of my involved parents are the ones who do walk to school because they can and they choose to be there for their children. That the Parent Academy highlights the needs for parents to take an active role in their children's education. But this consolidation will raise barriers, making it more difficult for parents to advocate for their children. So looking at the financial impact, as we mentioned before, there have been some things discussed at the April 1st meeting that have not been readdressed. Also, there have been quite a few upgrades to the Waldo facility in the last 15 years, including the adding on of a brand new building, the perimeter fencing, the solar panels, the new roof, and the new paint of the entire school. So as we look at these things, there are other ways that the county can consider saving, other cost-saving measures. The presentation that we're using tonight is through Google Docs, which was very easy for us to work together and synergize. I understand that a lot of our literacy coaches are also using this. I'm not sure if the county pays per Microsoft Office subscription each year, as many people do. That's an area that the county could save cost using our Google Docs program that we already have. I know the consolidation of Horizon and Aquin Jones was recommended, I believe, on Friday, that was brought up. Having some sort of public input forum where people can recommend ideas of ways the county could save money. Perhaps some sort of collective bargaining with the city of Waldo for water or sewer. That could be something to consider. Composting, solar panels, maybe even selling ad space on weekly teacher or parent principal newsletters would be another way that could save additional costs for the county. As we come to a close, rather than making a reactionary decision based on the financial audit and testing scores skewed by the influences of poverty, high-achieving students leaving the school in favor of magnet programs, and a small sample size, consider leaving the zoning lines as they currently are. Take a proactive approach and give Waldo community time to shine. As you've seen in this presentation, the 7 Habits of Happy Kids Leader in Me program will provide the boost needed to increase Waldo's enrollment so that the facility is out of the 200 student danger zone and at full capacity. The Leadership Academy would provide the necessary incentive for students to return to their zoned school rather than attending magnets or other places. Instead of having a negative impact on about 200 students by having them endure long, minimally supervised bus rides for a meager savings to the district's bottom line, and sentencing the city of Waldo to ghost town status, marginalizing parents' opinions, and displacing an entire faculty and staff that are more like family than colleagues. Let's work together. Let's synergize. Let's use the resources that we already have in place and create a win-win situation for all involved parties. We leave you with these final thoughts and questions. Again, addressing the quality of education being improved at Shell and Lake Forest. If closing poorly performing schools is a way of manipulating district data to make the district look better on paper rather than actually influencing real change. How much money are we really trying to save? Is the county motivated to unload high-need students? Is the county motivated to put more children on the bus in order to increase funding? How will migrant students' needs be served? Currently, they walk to school to register, and they won't be able to do that. What happens when a family without transportation cannot pick up their sick child? Will they go home on the bus and share their germs with all the other kids? What will happen to the Waldo facility? When involved families with financial and transportation resources pull their students, how will that affect the overall plan? Considering the fact that Prairie View was closed in 2004, and then the consolidation of Metcalf and Rawlings happened in 2010, it was attempted. Then Meadowbrook opened in 2012, and there's also the rumor from the January Gainesville Sun article that there's a new West Side school in the works in the future. Here's our kids again, and we hope that you'll think of them as you try to make this decision. Thank you so much for your time.
Ms. Powell and Ms. Thomas, we thank you so very much for the presentation from the entire Waldo community family. We appreciate everything that you shared. We are going to have board members, if any, would like to make comments, but we will do that because we're getting ready to recess now our regular business meeting, and if any board members would like to have a comment or say something, they can once we reconvene, okay? So now we will recess our regular board meeting and go into our public hearing. A public hearing is scheduled this evening for 6:30 p.m. to consider and receive input on the proposed amendments to the attendance zones. We ask that the public, if you're going to present anything on this issue, we ask that speakers keep their comments to 3 minutes.
Chair McNeely, As part of
Would you
the
state-
agencies, I'm sorry, my name is Laura Diedenbach. I'm with the City of Waldo. I was the second presentation in our agency presentations. I just want to make sure that after you reconvene as the school board, that I'll be able to make my presentation and that it will be considered
Absolutely.
as well. Okay.
I'm so sorry that I didn't say that.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Did anybody have any shades for?
Anyone pull out any sheets?
No?
No?
So you can go back?
You can ask
I don't,
Be able to say something, everyone else had a chance.
yeah, you can. Do you mean after
During the public hearing,
Okay, did you want to say something?
I want to ask Brian.
Attorney Moore, we do have a question, and before Dr. Paulson asks his question, if there are any citizens who would like to speak to this testimony?
Good evening, school board. Thank you for listening to me. I'll be brief. My name is Jackie Betts. I'm a retired school teacher, and I substitute taught at Waldo Community School for the last few years. I have a master's degree in education, and I have taught mainly at-risk schools in Florida throughout my entire teaching career. My favorite school is Waldo Community School. It's just a pleasure to be there. The faculty, the staff, the children, they are invested in the school. They're proud of their school, and they are so respectful. They have this love of learning that I didn't see in any other school that I substitute taught at. And I've substitute taught kindergarten through 12th grade. When I first started school, teaching school, we had a program called Cities in Schools, or Communities in Schools. And the teachers all went to workshops, and it was how to involve the community in your school, how to join forces between the school and the community. Well, Waldo does that. They didn't need to go take some workshops. They do that. The parents will walk their children to school, they'll walk into the classroom, they know their faces, the teachers know the parents. When they have the play at school in the spring, it's so crowded, it's standing room only. And these parents and children, they're so proud. It's a beautiful little school. I mean, everyone from the janitor to the bus driver, to the principal, to the secretary, including the children and the parents. It's a beautiful community school. And from my research, the schools that work best are small community schools. I urge you to not bus these children. This is our community. The long bus rides, the lack of parental involvement if the children are bused will really adversely affect these children. And it's about the kids. Now, you're either going to pay for our children now, or you're going to pay for our children in prison later. So you should put the money right now in the children to educate them, not bust them where they get lost in the system. Because it's the children who get lost in the system that end up in the other system.
Ms. Bass, thank you so much for your comments. Thank
Yes,
you.
and utilize the resources we already have. It's a beautiful school. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Paulson?
Thank you, Chairman McNeely, Dr. McNeely. This could go to either Mr. Delaney or Mr. Moore. I just want to know, this is the public hearing. We got to the second reading. Can we make any amendments we want at the second reading? We're not going to have a discussion, but we can make amendments?
At the second reading, you can make amendments based on anything that has been presented either here tonight at the hearing or up before the hearing.
But when you say what has been presented here, the amendment might be something, the amendment could be different than what's presented. I mean, just one of these, what's presented here, we can amend it.
Yes, the board can amend it,
I want
but
that
the
clear.
change just has to be based on stuff that has been discussed with the board either at the public hearing or any time between when it was first reading and public hearing. All the emails you've received, any ideas.
Anything.
Anything. So, I mean, you couldn't amend it to bring in other schools that haven't been discussed. But anything involving Waldo, Shell, Lake Forest, the other schools that are in these
So
zones.
if we wanted to have another school involved, we can't bring that up in the second reading if that?
No, not at the second reading, because none of those parents or people have been on notice that their school is potentially having its school zone boundaries changed.
What if it was part of school choice?
I'm not
What would it affect the other school if somebody came to that school?
To the school or moving kids away from other schools?
Not moving away from another school. This is all involving Waldo. And I'm not saying, I'm just, as
Right.
an option.
Well, certainly Waldo and the students at Waldo and where they will go to school next year is on the table, and just about every option
Okay.
possible has been discussed.
I just want to
so-
be clear on that, because I don't want to come in and, if I decided to do something, and then you tell me I can't do it. So I just want
Right.
to be clear.
What I'm saying, you can't, just to take as far away from that corner of the county as possible, we can't change the zone lines for part of the Archer zone and move it into Newberry Elementary. Those
No,
two
no.
schools aren't on the table, so.
What? In other words, could you make it part of school choice to send somebody somewhere?
Well, school choice, that is a different policy, and that policy is not before the board right now either.
No, I mean, in an amendment.
It's a different policy. We have a school choice policy that's,
Well, this is confusing.
yeah. This is the policy that just draws the
I don't,
physical
you know,
zone.
I've had discussions, I mean, I'm not, have my mind made up on anything, but I mean, let's say you wanted to send these kids to another school.
Right.
You can't do that with an amendment?
I think if you wanted to say that the current zone line or any zone part of the Waldo area was going to be going to a different school,
Because the zone line's also in this,
yes. I mean, I think it's been discussed certainly
Okay.
at various points, the idea of there are other schools that are closer. So I think if you were to just take the entire Waldo zone and say, no, now it's going to go to Rawlins, I think is the closest,
or not even
Foster,
all,
or-
they're tired, okay, or give them a choice or whatever, I don't know.
But the choice one gets into problems because that's a whole different policy. This is just the physical, if you live here, this is your zone school. That's what this policy is.
But you can, okay, but that zone could be divided up then.
The zone could be divided further in different ways, yes.
Okay, I appreciate that, because we had that a couple of years ago with the second reading and what we could bring up. You remember, if anybody was on the board then, it wasn't involving stuff like that, I think it was the calendar, and we were told certain things we could bring up and not bring up. So I'm just trying to be clear, because if
Right.
I don't, I'm gonna look,
We can make changes to the policy based on three things. One, written comments received up until the time of the public hearing, comments received at the public hearing, or comments from the Joint Administrative Procedures Committee, which we don't use.
or we
That's
can
the
amend
legislature.
what's in this right here.
But the amendments have to be based on comments received, yes.
Well, and we made
And they can be
comments-
board member comments received. I mean, the board has expressed different thoughts. I mean, there's, without knowing what we're contemplating, a lot of different options
Well,
have
I
been
can't, I
discussed
don't
for
know.
the kids.
I have a
So-
lot of things I'm contemplating.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I can contemplate them.
Yeah, I have a hard time thinking of something that involves the
No, I mean,
Waldo
I'm just
students
saying-
next year, where they would go, that has not already been put on the table and is allowed for board consideration.
All right, thank you. I just wanted it on record, and at least I know what I can do and can't do, or would, you know. So I'm not wasting my time thinking about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Paulson. Dr. Roberts.
I'd just like to, for clarity again, because I want to make certain that everybody, all of our board members, will leave here this evening very clear about what Mr. Moore is saying. So, Dr. Paulson, if I understand this, you're asking in terms of any input that's been provided since we had the first board hearing, the first reading, and until the decision is made, if any particular policy changes can be made to what has been in the first reading. Am I correct?
Right, the first reading made it official, this is the language that the board is considering. And so all the comments that have been made and written, all the emails, all the comments that people have made at the first reading, even the workshop ideas, all of that can be considered by the board in making any changes that it might consider making to the policy as it's currently proposed.
But let's say, just to make, so I got it, let's say I wanted to send some kids one school, and it's not Lake Forest.
I think several schools have been mentioned to the board.
Let's say you wanted to give people a choice to go to schools, if they,
We'll let you continue, but let.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make it so he can get answered.
That's okay.
I apologize, Dr. Roberts.
That's okay,
I
Dr. Paulson.
apologize.
I'm just getting clarity so that we all
I
know
know.
what is required. Because I would hate for you or anyone to come at another point and make a request that we hear cannot be done.
Right.
And I want to make certain that you're satisfied as well. So to that point, I want to ask Mr. Moore, since there's specific schools that have been named in this proposed policy, are you saying that no board member could include another school in that zoning that's being proposed?
No, I think they could consider it as a receiving school. I don't think they could change the drawn zone boundary lines for any school other than the 6 or 7 that are presented, that were presented in the first reading.
I have one more question. And one more, what is if, theoretically, right? You want to let them go to school of their choice?
Dr. Paulson, it's two different things. The zoning lines are in policy. School choice is another policy.
But I want to know if I can make an amendment to where these kids are sent. That's all. If you'll tell me yes or no, then I know what I can do.
You can make an amendment to where they are sent, but it can only be, I mean, they can only have one zoned school.
No, one is if you say, if people wanted to send their kids someplace and take them there.
That is a different policy. That's 5120.03 school choice. So they still have that out. I mean, any parent zoned for any school in the district can try school choice or zoning exceptions, but those are different policies. Every student has to be, this address has a
Is
corresponding
that still open
school.
to these, is that still open? What is,
Well, zoning exceptions are year-round.
Yes.
can we make something as a board that these people would be able to choose a certain school that they're their choice?
Not as part of this policy.
No, but as a, well, how could we do that?
I don't know. I mean, with capacity issues and things, I'm not sure what could be done at this point with that. I mean, that's a separate issue.
Attorney Moore,
yes.
is it not, at this point, what Dr. Paulson is requesting or asking, a zoning exemption application? A parent could apply, but it does not guarantee
Right.
that that family will get that choice. That's my understanding of the current policy that we have in place.
Right. Most of the schools are at or above capacity, and so short of a medical hardship or something along those lines, there aren't very many options for school
Well, what I was
choice.
really asking, I was asking that, but I was also asking if you could say, make it so they could choose where they want to go, as long as the school is not 100%.
Just not in this policy. But I mean, that's already, I mean, I think it's 90% is the cutoff line But that is an option already. If their school is at less than 90% capacity.
No, I'm saying that they would get their choice. Can the board make that decision?
It's already the policy. I mean,
Can the board say if they choose it, they don't have to go before that board? There's a group that hears that, doesn't it, Dr.
those are appeals when they're denied.
Okay.
If a zoning exception is made right now to a school that is less than 90%, short of a lot of truancy or absences or behavioral problems, the exception is almost always granted. Then when the ones that are more crowded, it really has to be, I mean, like a medical emergency. The school is, like Terwilliger is right next to North Florida Regional, and there's a medical, something along those lines.
Okay.
But they already have the option, I mean, every parent in the district has the option to seek an exception, and if the school's not at 90% capacity, almost all of them are granted. They can lose the zoning exception if, like with tardies and absences or behavior.
I'm sorry I'm asking all these things, but
It's
I
all right.
want to, because I don't want to. Could we guarantee if they go to a school, they would have a spot in an EDEP program?
I don't think so. The EDP is kind of, that's a space available.
But if we're the board, can we say they'd have a spot?
If it's above capacity for the cafeteria and they're already full, probably not, because that might violate other issues, and we might not have staffing. I mean, there's a lot of ripple effect, which I encountered trying to get my child into EDP my first year. But
You were going to say something?
So,
All right.
All right, Dr. Paulson, Attorney Delaney, and then Dr. Roberts.
I was just going to say real briefly, I think that what I'm hearing from you, Dr. Paulson, is maybe you would be interested in a possible amendment to the school choice policy being brought. And off the top of my head, I'm thinking that perhaps that policy could be amended, that if there is a school zoning change or a school closing, students at that school that is closed would have a preference for school choice. That's something that could be written into the school choice policy. But I think what Mr. Moore was emphasizing is that for this process that we're in right now, we have to make sure that every student in the district has an assigned zone school
Right, I got you.
that they're for.
Okay.
And so this process, we got to make sure every address in the district has got an assigned school, but we certainly could look into bringing forth an amendment to the school choice, such as giving a preference to Waldo students or a school that's been closed.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Delaney.
Thank you, Attorney Delaney.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts, too.
Dr. Roberts.
Madam Chair, I just want to, just for the record, because the question, Dr. Paulson, is a very important one. However, I would caution that whatever policy change we're going to do to the actual student assignment system, because there are several policies that guides that we make certain that we do a feasibility about whether or not we can actually implement it. Because if I picked up where you're going with that, if for argument's sake we are going to allow a particular school to have, because of actions being taken like a closing, to have access to any school, then you would have to note that you're opening up a policy that is going to sweep the entire district in any particular school. So I don't know how you deal with that, but I'm saying whatever we do in terms of policy changes, we need to make certain we have a feasibility study to see if the policy can be implemented before we even bring it forward.
Mr. Hyatt.
I'll just say that would also, the consideration here is the Waldo zoning, but it seems to me that would also be applicable to the families at Duval as well, because that school was repurposed and those children rezoned. So it's as Mr. Moore said, somewhat of a ripple effect. So just to keep that in mind.
And it would be the same for Rollins as well as Metcalf as well. All right. Seeing no more comments, no more lights. Oh.
You want to speak? Come on up. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Tracy DeLuca. I've seen all of you several times, but I just wanted to take a chance. My son Braden, who is a special needs child at Waldo, we had his IEP meeting last week, And it was a very enlightening meeting. His teachers and everybody who was there did an amazing job of making sure that everything he needed is in that IEP, since we don't know where he's going next year. So we made sure every I was dotted and every T was crossed. One of the really neat things that I wanted to share with you is the fact that my son, who 2 years ago, we moved back to Florida. He came from a school with 2,000 kids. He moved to Florida. We came to Waldo, to a school with 200 kids. My son went from moderately autistic with very, very poor social skills to, in his IEP and writing, saying he is atypically social for an autistic child. And I say that is all thanks to Waldo School. That's thanks to his teachers and the other students and the staff. That's thanks to the rec department. That's thanks to tons of therapy, which thanks to the school he was able to get. And so here goes my child. 2 years made a humongous difference for him. And that's because he was in a school with 200 kids, in a community school where everybody knew him and took an interest in him and made an effort with him. So that's why I fight for Waldo. It's not just the history. It's the changes they make in these kids' lives every day. And these kids who are lower income, the kid who never gets hugged at home, but when he goes to school, he gets a hug. The kid who needs social help, the kid who has behavioral issues, the kid who doesn't get fed at home, but you know what? He gets breakfast and lunch at school every day. And that's what we don't want to lose in Waldo, is that caring and that community spirit. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I'm sorry?
State your name one more time.
Tracy DeLuca.
DeLuca. Thank you, Ms. DeLuca. I have two citizen input for this special hearing, and I'm going to call on those names now. Ms. Diane McGraw, and after Mrs. McGraw, then we will hear from Lori Ann Tidwell.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and to all of your constituencies. I am Diane McGraw, President of the 4A's Political Action Committee. My comment, Dr. Paulson, if you do for one, you have to do for all. If you open up that door and say for one community, you're going to do school choice, it's going to be a ripple effect. We have enough issues in our school system where people don't trust and they think one group is being treated differently from another group. We must be careful, because if you open that up, I'm going to go out and say, well, hey, if I want school choice, then that means that any child, anywhere, everybody wants the best for their children. But if you open that up, that's going to cause a problem here in the community. People are watching now, and listening. So please be careful when we make these decisions. When we were back before with closing of different schools in the east side in this community, it was a tough process. When we rezoned with a 24-member board back in 2004, 2005, it was a tough process. I lived in Lincoln Estates when I first came here. Kids were bused to Littlewood. Those kids survived. They were okay. But be careful when you make a decision to say, I'm going to try to change policy procedures to just do one particular group. We have to make sure we don't make that kind of mistake. Let's be fair and make sure we're doing the best for all children in Alachua County. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Thank you. My name is Lori Ann Tidwell, and I just wanted to take a brag moment, if I could, for Waldo. We had field day Friday, and I've seen several of you guys there. And well, first off, let me go ahead and do an introduction to myself. My daughter, Anna Lee Tidwell, she goes to Waldo by choice. We are zoned to go to Shell. We live in Melrose, and we go to Waldo by choice because that's where I went to school. And I know the background of Waldo, and of course, that's where all my family went to school, so that's where I chose for her to go to school. And and I'm very involved with Waldo Community School. So I went to the field day, and during the field day, we had a really good time. Waldo did very good. We brought home 4 ribbons. And but the one thing that stood out the most was there was a person who I guess had been watching our students, and they came up to one of our teachers, and I had overheard it, and they're like, excuse me, what school are you guys from? And our school, I mean, our shirt had a special little saying on it, so you couldn't see, you know, really down at the bottom where we were from. And we were told them we were from Waldo Community School. And they said, we just want to compliment you on the behavior of your students, the way they are behaving, the way they are acting towards each other and towards other students. She said the teamwork was amazing. They were cheering each other on. Even when they weren't doing good, they were there cheering each other on to lift each other up. And that was such a proud moment for me as a parent, for the fifth graders that were there and for the teachers that were there, that were the reason why those students were behaving like that, was because of the teachers. And another thing was when we were sitting in the stands, there was another school in front of us. I'm not going to say what the name of the school, but the teachers with that school, with the way they were treating their children, was unbelievable. The way they were hollering and screaming. Of course, the students were misbehaving a lot, but all of our students were just kind of sat back and they were like scared to move for a minute. We were like, oh, wow. So, and then after that, for that other person, I do not know where that other person was from. But it was just that she took the time to come tell us that our students behaved very well. That was just such a compliment. So I just wanted to have a Waldo brag moment on how well and how great our teachers are and how great our students are. Thank you.
Still it's citizen input time, is that correct?
We're still on the attendance zone, public hearing.
Great. Okay, so the comment that was asked, or the question that was raised by Dr. Paulson, I kind of want to piggyback off of that. Since the, I'm sorry, Susan Thomas.
Thank you.
Hello again, board, Dr. Roberts. So since the March 2nd announcement, I remember distinctively getting up that night and questioning, why is Shell only being considered? Since then, Lake Forest has been considered. And so I will again ask the question, why are other schools not being considered? For instance, I've brought this up. I've Google mapped. My students are closer to Meadowbrook from where I live. My children are closer to Meadowbrook on the other side of our district. But yet Shell and Lake Forest are the only considerations. I'm not asking for my kids to go to Meadowbrook. I want to stay in Waldo. But there are a lot of other schools that are a lot closer for many of our students, for our student population. Also, piggybacking on the school choice. So there's some talk about school choice. If something about school choice was amended, anything goes through, just out of curiosity, what sort of timeline are we looking at? Is Waldo going to be a learning experience and it not really be feasible for us? Also, on school choice, again, we have parent concerns. Many of them have not heard back, have been shut down about school choice. I've spoke about this before. My student has received 2 letters to go to a gifted magnet. I chose for them 2 years to stay in Waldo. That deadline has closed. I know that Dr. Roberts has made comments about possibly opening that enrollment back up, and I'm just curious if those gifted magnets would be reopened. You know, we hear school choice, but again, our parents who are sitting here and who probably are watching from home, they have been shut down. Also along those lines, I personally got an out-of-county transfer for my students because I have to look out for the 3 that I have. My students currently have an out-of-county transfer to go to Bradford County in case Waldo Community School closes. I had no problem. I called, I spoke. They sent me a piece of paper that said your student is fine to go. They also sent a fax over to the other school. I have spoke to parents at our school who have had to come in multiple times. They're getting the runaround on the transfers and on the out-of-county. Just wondering why, and my concern would be if we're already getting all this runaround, already getting shot down for school choice at this point, is this really going to be a viable option for us if any sort of amendments were made? And again, I know our kids will survive at a school. Those students who have already attended school at Waldo, they have been given a lot of tools to take with them if this happens. But I'm not looking to survive, I'm looking to thrive.
Louis Davis.
Oh, on that, I put a request there, I'd like to speak after this board is done.
Then the next person is Mr. Carlisle.
So I take it there's no particular order to the speakers? I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
There's no particular order because I just put that in. I thought there was some more people besides me that I'd put in to talk. But that's fine. My name's Stephen Carlisle. I'm a citizen of Alachua County. I went to Waldo School, and I spoke at the first meeting I attended. But, you know, I was new, so I really didn't know the full picture of what was going on. So the last couple meetings I've stood by and tried to learn and what's going on with the school. And it appears to me that there's a lot of ailments to our district, and it's disheartening to me. I know it's not really one person's fault, but the collective, you know, the fault's can't be placed on one person. It comes down to a whole body just not performing its functions correctly. As I forgot your name, I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear it, but you spoke about doing the right thing for all the students in Alachua County. Ms. McGraw, thank you. And that really touched my heart because that is so true. You can't treat one group of people better than anyone else. And that's the case with Waldo, the Shell, the students on the west side of town, that some people feel get preferential treatment. That's the dividing thing in our country these days. Now, what it occurs to me is that there's expenditures that aren't getting budgeted correctly. From the stuff that I've seen, the evidence that I've seen that you guys have showed me on the budget impact statements, there's things that just don't add up, and we need clarification on this stuff. There's no way that you guys can say you're going to make more money by busing these children farther to another school. It just doesn't add up. Plus, when I rode the bus from Waldo to Hawthorne when I was in middle school, students get bullied on the bus, and that's not a light matter to take into consideration. That's very effective. That can very negatively affect each student that goes through that, both on the bullying side and the students that get bullied. That affects everybody. I think that there's a better course of action, and I'm closing, than to close these smaller schools and consolidate into bigger schools. I don't think it's the best interest for the students. I really did very well when I was at Waldo, and I was a very difficult student. But I just urge you not to rush into a hasty decision to close these smaller community schools, because if we get on that path, the next schools that close are going to be Shell, the other small schools in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wade.
Hi, I'm Dudley Wade, citizen of Waldo. Thank you so much for listening to us again. I met with all of y'all. We had quite a conversation. I appreciate your courtesy. But since then, I've thought some more about it. Dr. Roberts mentioned to me that he was very proud of the fact that the hastily conceived and illy prepared testing program had been stopped for this next year. So here we have a hastily conceived, hastily prepared, poorly prepared consolidation program that should be stopped too. I mean, we talked about school choice. We talked about school choice and different options there, but really, when you come down to it, with all the problems on the east side of the school, to do this one thing is not in the best interest of the students, not in the best interest of Alachua County. you're setting yourself up as board members to be doing this for the next few years of constant school zoning changes and the like. And it's just not right. It's not right for the kids. It's not right for us. I would recommend that y'all put this on hiatus, not for 1 year, because if you have 1 year, you're still going to lose 40 or 50 kids out of the Waldo school. They're going to go somewhere else. It has to be for at least 5. You put it aside for 5 years and say by the end of the 5th year, Waldo has to meet these standards. You will have a performing school that will do the job. If it doesn't, then you can do this thing again. But if you do it right now, just like this, you're not going to have any, you're not going to save $400,000. You'll lose $200,000 from the kids moving out of the county completely or out of the system. You lose another couple of $100,000 from school taxes as Waldo property values goes down. So if you're losing $400,000 and you're going to save $400,000, how much money you're actually going to save? To me, that adds up to zero. I went to Waldo school. You know, my wife did anyhow. So you're not saving money. So it's not about money saving. It's about a dream about having super teachers from somebody that's got supervision. And that's not what it's about either. It's about the kids in Waldo not having to be on the bus for 2 months out of the year. So I would recommend to y'all, and you might make a recommendation, just hold this for 5 years. Give us a chance to rebound from some poor decisions. Having 10 principals in the last 30 years, you know. There's a lot of things that went on at Waldo that was mainly due by neglect by the previous boards, and it just needs to be time to recover. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. We will hear everyone that submitted these forms. They could be out of order. Please, I'm apologizing for that. I've been given the forms at different times. So I'm going to ask that Brooke, it looks like Hughley, thank you. Please come up.
My name's Brooke Hughley. I'm the media aide and a past student and a parent of a lovely 5th grader. I'm actually reading a letter for one of our fellow parents that's here. She's not feeling well, so I'm going to read it on her behalf. This is her son, James. Here's a picture of James. And her letter says, "To whom it may concern, my name is Emma McNeil. My son attends Waldo Community School, and he's doing very well there. His grades are good, and he has a learning disability, although the therapy and special time the teachers there spend with him educate him. They are very proficient, and I don't know if he'll get the help he receives now at another school. So I'm asking you to also think about the elementary children having to ride the bus with the middle and high school teens. There might be bullying on the bus, and also the long ride there and back is too much for the children. Thank you."
Thank you. Pam Burnsett.
Hello, my name is Pam Burnsett. I'm a past student, past parent of children from Waldo Community School, present grandparent and aunt of children at Waldo Community School. School choice started being talked a little bit here tonight, and I just want to say one thing. When you're talking about school choice, I believe Waldo School's choice is Waldo School. We want to save our schools, so school choice is not something we really want to hear right now at this moment. I had the opportunity to go to the Parade of Homes and look around at all the new construction that's going on the west side of the county. And then it got me thinking a little bit, because I see school, children are zoned for Wiles, Meadowbrook, Idlewild, things like that. So I found this. It's the 5-year district facilities work program plan for 2014-2015. It says the Department of Education, this is a very important document for the Department of Education, Legislator, Governor's Office, Division of Community Planning, Growth Management, local governments, and other use the work program information for various needs, including funding, planning, and as authoritative sources for the school facilities. Then I kind of started looking at some of these schools. Some of them are at capacity, past capacity, or very close to meeting capacity. And then you look at their projected plan. For 2018-19 by the COFTE, They're like 113%, 137%, 114%. All of these schools are on the west side. Then it got me thinking. I go back to one article that y'all have ultimately denied when saying that this is not part of y'all's ultimate plan, but talking about this Alachua County Leaders Mole, how to pay for new schools. Again, it stated, building new schools has to be recommended by the state in the district's 5-year plan in order for the district to be allowed to use any state money for construction. And it states that there's vacant classrooms, schools that are not at capacity. So I go back and forth on why none of this is making sense to me. And I see y'all are willing to sacrifice schools on the east side of the county for future schools for the west side. That is the only thing that I can either just begin to gather on why y'all are making the hasty decisions you're making. And we're also starting to hear things, well, like tonight, y'all haven't even voted, but yet we're talking school choice as if Waldo's already closed down. So that kind of bothers me a little bit when we're sitting here talking and stuff like that. We're fighting to save our schools. We're also hearing that things are already being done at Shell in the vacant part that hasn't been used. If it hasn't been voted on, why are we already working at Shell if that's true? And then Dr. Roberts, I looked at your 100-day plan again. And the things that you have planned for Duval and Metcalf and Rawlings are great. They are wonderful. Awesome plans over there. But the consolidation plans doesn't look as good when you compare it to your plan for the Gainesville schools, except for the fact that Shell and Lake Forest gets to keep their schools while you choose to close Waldo. I feel it is our babies being made to pay the price for your dream of Alachua County schools.
Ms. Burnson.
Real quick, and I'm almost done. It says here, school superintendent meets Waldo citizens. This was from December 17th. This is a quote from Dr. Roberts. When you think about Alachua, sometimes people don't think about Waldo, Roberts said, but I want you to know that this superintendent understands clearly that this is about the entire county. I question you, do you understand what it is for Waldo? I just state, I think this is all a quick fix for your dream of what you're wanting to do for the Gainesville schools. Don't see the other schools here on the east side of the county, when I say Lake Forest, Shell, and Waldo, that we're really benefiting anything.
Ms. Burnson.
I'm done.
I think next we'll have, it looks like Du Bois.
Thank you, School Board, Superintendent Jim Du Bois, resident of Waldo. You are all wise enough to have recognized the passion with which we have spoken to you tonight and at previous meetings. The problem with the guidelines and proposal that the superintendent has given forth places the 5 of you in a quandary. The quandary of believing that the guidelines he has proposed are right. If you believe that, then you will have to apply those guidelines to every school in this county, or you will have to admit to the students, parents, and citizens of Waldo that they were treated on a different plane and differently than the rest of the schools in the county. There's no other way around that. I'd also like to make a plea besides just the fact of closing a school. You will also do damage to those children, because many of those children will miss out physically and socially by having to miss many of those rec program things that are going on in Waldo because of late bus rides home. I can tell you, whether it's a concern or not, that you may not have thought of that, as well as the moral and spiritual guidelines that the churches in Waldo attempt to do with the students and children and families in Waldo. I know at our church, primarily on Wednesday night, for all of those children in the community to be able to come, you are going to greatly reduce the moral and spiritual impact that we're going to be able to have on those children, because they're going to become part of another community. Then one other point. I know that our superintendent is well educated. He's a gifted spokesman. But in the presentation to the student and parents of Waldo on that night, his obvious lack of the pronouns I and me, and speaking of himself through his entire speech in the third person, gave all of us at least the opinion that he knew this was a double standard for the people of Waldo.
Thank you, sir. Deborah Boa. Deborah Boa.
My name is Deborah Bowl, and I
I'm
wasn't going
sorry.
to speak.
Did you say Bowl?
Bowl, yes.
I am so sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
I wasn't going to speak, for one, because of the way that I sound, but also because, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't think you guys are listening anymore. As Pam said, we've heard a lot of things that are when Waldo goes to Shell, at Shell, what we're going to do. The last time I left, I felt like it was done. You'd made your decision. I would like to, I'd like to point out that a few things. I multiplied the number of dollars that we were in the beginning told was being spent by on each student at Waldo by the yearly budget that we were told in the same piece of paper. And it was $200,000 short. So they said that they were spending $180,000 on our students when it should have been $160,000. So that makes me question a lot of math everywhere. I also wanted to point out that money's been talked about a lot. We were told over and over, it's not about cost, it's not about cost, about helping kids, about making things better. But it really is cost, and I think we need to own that if that's what it is. I just think that if it is based on cost, we need to get a real grasp of the cost that we are incurring here. I, for one, have looked and still never seen an in-depth copy of what this is gonna cover as far as a budget and expenditures. I also would like to remind you, school board, and illustrious superintendent, you guys don't work for him. You work for us. And we appreciate that Dr. Roberts was chosen by you and that he has intelligence and expertise that can help Alachua County. We appreciate that. Dr. Roberts, I would never, ever speak disrespectfully to you. I really do think you're a great guy. I think that you're trying. I think that this plan is ill-conceived, and I would respect you even more if I saw you say, there are better ideas, let's incorporate them. I feel like you've given us an all or nothing, and it makes me very unhappy.
Mr. Davis, are you still waiting for?
I'll speak and then he can speak
Okay,
about that.
thank you.
The City of Waldo, we actually have a presentation that does apply to this tonight.
that I was hoping we could get in before the open public meeting, so it's going to be weird when it comes after, and that was actually when I was going to make comments. But one thing that I think is unique to Alachua County that I deal with a lot, all of you do too, is it's almost like we have two counties. We have the richer side of the county and we have the poorer side of the county. And what works for this side doesn't work for that side. And this happens all the time, whether I'm working with the BOCC or whoever I'm working with. What might apply in the city of Alachua may not work in the city of Waldo, but what works in Waldo may not work over there either. And I think one thing that you have that is very unique to a lot of places is you do have the urban schools and then you have the rural schools. And I feel that we finally have a principal, it's actually her second year, so she's finally making leaps and bounds. She's got a good staff that she's put together. They are making a big difference, and these kids need that. And it frustrates me in a conversation. I was told if it was an A school, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And the part of that bothers me is, to me, the F schools need more help than the A schools. The A schools evidently have the things they need and the parental support and whatever it is they need. These kids in the low grade schools are the ones that need the special attention, and will not do well in a 400 or 600 capacity school. They just won't. And I think you have the ability to shine for the rest of the world, so to speak, to show how good small schools do and to show what rural communities can do. And again, like I say, we've seen it. The kids in Waldo who don't necessarily get what they need at home get it from the community. This lady right here is unbelievable, how she volunteers. Miss Mary Ann, I mean, probably everybody in this room does something special at the school and may not even have a child there. I was PTA president, 3 years after Taylor left, I think, and it just sticks with you. Waldo just sticks with you. And I wish that you all had come out more to actually see when the town turns out for the programs, or the fall festival is unbelievable, or any of that, and you could see what you're trying to kill, because that's honestly what's going to happen. And please save Waldo School. I really believe that you could make it shine, and I think it would be a diamond in your choice of schools. So thank you. Also, that's part of our thing, our presentation.
Okay, well, I'll leave that part, Laura's going to bring it up. It's Louis Davis, City of Waldo, Mayor of the City of Waldo, and I want to speak to you real briefly. Y'all know how I feel. We spoke enough about it. I'm flat opposed to closing the school, and Mr. Stuckenberg going to bring up the meeting we had with Dr. Roberts. There was some miscommunication there as far as what we said about what the future plans for growth in the city of Waldo. But I'd like to say that I'd sort of broken up here. I just got back from a short vacation, and I did travel from Tennessee back to Florida, going through a lot of small communities. They all had schools. Every one of them seemed like they had a school right there close by, and that's what we'd like to keep as our school. And I'm not sure why Bradford County can do it, but they seem to be able to keep their small schools. And I'd like Mr. Wade's suggestion that you give us a 5-year time clock. And if we don't improve the school, or the school hadn't improved, then it's over with. And we could live with that. And give us, we had some problems with the principals in the past. We have a great principal right now. I hate to lose her. The other thing about the economic effect on the city, it's going to hurt the city. There's no doubt. If you close the school, it's going to hurt the school. But the main concern I have is the children, like Pastor said. But can you imagine what a 4-year-old, 5-year-old getting on that bus at 5:30 in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning and riding for an hour or over an hour, and then riding with some bullies on the bus and stuff like that? We don't, need to really consider the economic fact. It's there, but let's consider the safety of those children and how close they should be to home, and not 15 or 20 or 25 miles away. Thank you.
Shannon Boyle. Hope I got it right this time.
you, Madam Chairwoman. Shannon Bull, Waldo, Granddad. Back to community. That's been my theme right along. And I am a fan of what Waldo Community School is doing. I am a believer. I believe in what they're doing. And I've seen it from both sides. I've seen me struggle in school, I've seen my children struggle in school, and I've seen my two little grandchildren, Karen and Timmy, leave to go to Fresno for a while. Fresno, California is a small, not anymore, rural, not anymore, farming community in a great big valley with some of the best soil in the world. But it has deteriorated. Fresno is no longer what you think of. Fresno is now gang activity. They love community in Fresno too, but it's been overrun with gangs. So the kids' experience there was not going outside to play because of gunfire. They came back withdrawn, turned in, not happy, polite, and sweet. Now, in 2 years, I've seen them flower and turn into the most delightful grandchildren that anybody could possibly want. I am a believer in what Waldo is doing, but I'm also aware of the problems that are facing our children. The gang thing is one thing they turn to for community. That's one way our children get destroyed. Teen suicide is a reality. You're not going to hear a lot about it because it's swept under the table, it is underreported, it's not something anybody wants to hear on the news, but it's a reality. The gang thing is a reality, and you're not going to hear a lot about it because really law enforcement exists to keep you from having to hear about it, but it's a reality, and it's an outcome of us not investing in our children. Waldo's into something very good. They have learned something that works, and they're implementing it. I am a big fan of what they're doing in Waldo. On a final small note, I've tried to learn to walk a mile in y'all's shoes, tried to build a bridge between us to learn a little bit about you. It's really not very easy. Our illustrious superintendent is still a complete mystery to me. I haven't been able to learn a thing about where he's been or what he's done, but perhaps in time I'll get to know him better. And I salute all of you. What time I've spent with you I have enjoyed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Heather Kurzweil.
My name is Heather Kurzweil. My children are the children that went to school in Fresno. My daughter loves school. She went to school in Fresno. She hated it. She faked sick. She came up with any reason she could not to go to school. I homeschooled her because my children's education is very important to me. I don't think it's important to the school board anymore, but it is very important to me. And I will do whatever it takes for my children to get a good education. My kids are back at Waldo. They love school. They are zoned for Alachua Elementary and Irby Elementary. They went there. They didn't like it. They went to school. They did good, but they didn't like it. They come home now. I don't have to ask them what they did at school. They tell me because they are excited about it. My son got caught today, which my friends here, oh, he got caught. Oh, what'd you do? You got in trouble? It's a good thing. It's an exciting thing. My son has the bear used to be a chief. It's an Indian because they're the Waldo Warriors. He still has it. He got it 2 years ago. It's been to California and back. Waldo is always in their life. It is part of them. They don't want to go anywhere else. A lot of things that are said don't make any sense. My husband is tired of hearing about this. He's like, I wish they would just leave the school alone so y'all will shut up. But it's important. And I couldn't imagine them being anywhere else. I drive my kids to school because I want them there. And I'm going to tear your podium down. But I'll drive them somewhere else. I work in Bradford County. I can meet one of those requirements by my place of employment for a hardship, for an out-of-county zoning. And my daughter now wants to be a superintendent of the school board so she cannot close schools. She's 9 years old. And she spoke to you guys. My kids don't want anything else. My daughter cried over FSA testing. Because what if I don't do good? They'll close Waldo for sure, Mom. These kids, these small children, are upset by this. This isn't about us parents. It's about our children. And I had to leave my kids home today because they have school tomorrow, and it is important, and they can't be out all night to do this. So just remember that these are small children. These are not dollars. You can find dollars somewhere else. We can't find children somewhere else.
Thank you so much for all of your comments. We will now resume our regular business meeting. And before we have the second presentation, I had asked the board members if they had any comments from the first presentation. If not, then we will move to the second. Seeing none, we're ready. Ms. Dettenbach, with the City of Waldo.
If I can just have a minute to pull my presentation.
And if you'll say your
back up.
name again, because I know I didn't do it correctly.
Okay, well, if I could just get a minute to have somebody switch me back to the desktop for my presentation. That would be great. Thank you.
I'm not sure if this is it. I'm making no promises.
Oh. Here it comes. The man who will save the day.
Yeah, let's take this off. Excuse me a second. Yeah, hold on, let me see that. Okay. Make me nervous. You got your flash drive in already?
Oh, okay, yeah. So much for advanced presentation. I got here early, get my presentation on here, and hoping not to waste your time. Okay, thank you so much for your patience. And while the TV is coming up, good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, Superintendent Roberts. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Laura Diedenbach. I'm the city planner for the city of Waldo. Tonight I'm here representing the Waldo City Council, City Manager Kim Worley, Waldo's residents, and the students and family of Waldo Community School. Since my presentation is taking place outside of the public hearing, I would like to make sure that my presentation is submitted as part of your public hearing record this evening and considered as testimony to such. Waldo Community School is that integral centerpiece of the puzzle that, when complete, creates one united city. Without each piece, the city is incomplete. We are all better together. The first school in Waldo was established in 1868. The building that houses Waldo Community School was completed in 1923. It is a contributing structure in the Waldo Historic District, which was placed on the National Register in 2001. Built of concrete block, this building was constructed to serve as a high school. The Waldo Women's Club worked diligently to support the passage of a bond issue to fund the new high school, and worked even harder to outfit and maintain the school. The 7-acre site is located in the residential center of Waldo, in close proximity to homes, parks, and the library. Waldo Historical Society is an ardent supporter of Waldo Community School and coordinates with the school to provide students opportunities to learn about history. For example, on March 17th, Waldo veterans and members of the Historical Society met with the 5th grade class and safety patrols to talk about the history of the American flag and how it is to be honored, and it included a flag ceremony. As it has for 147 years, the Waldo community remains committed to Waldo Community School. The loss of Waldo Community School will result in a significant economic hardship to the city. The closing of the school would result in a loss of 40 jobs. Those 40 teachers and employees spend money at the restaurants, retail shops, and gas stations in Waldo. As a secondary impact, those hundreds of parents who come to the school daily and for recreational and event activities would no longer be eating, shopping, or gassing up in Waldo. Schools are significant generators of economic activity for small towns, and school closures are particularly hard on the smallest rural communities where the presence of a school is associated with many social and economic benefits. The recession hit Waldo hard. We are now seeing signs of recovery indicated by a rise in the number of building permits and utility connections. Residential remodeling, new home construction, and new commercial construction has taken an upturn in the last year. Waldo is poised for growth. We did not rest during that recession time. During the last 3 years, significant capital investments have been made in Waldo. Waldo and GRU entered a partnership to connect a wastewater line from Waldo's former plant into GRU's system, which will allow Waldo's population to double and provide for more commercial businesses. Waldo recently completed the addition of a 3rd water well. Finally, Alachua County Fire Rescue is in the site planning process for the construction of a new fire station on 301 in the heart of Waldo. We've also spent the last few years amending the city's comprehensive plan so that the small town mixed-use land use pattern is allowed in the core of the city with an employment center overlay district on the north part of US 301 to accommodate larger commercial and employment growth. We are investing in our city. The Waldo Area Recreation's motto is changing lives one child at a time. The recreation program offers t-ball, softball, baseball, football, and cheer. Athletic facilities and fields are used in agreement with the school board. Fundraising and community sponsorships and volunteerism keep the recreation program going. Many of the children participating in Waldo's recreation program do so as part of the after-school program. In addition to developing team-building skills, the recreation program provides a much-needed opportunity for physical exercise and education. Team sports are an important capacity-building and community-building activity. All of these benefits would be lost if the school closes. Healthy bodies, healthy minds. Kids who are more physically active have better academic performance. Children need a recommended 60 minutes of activity daily, and in addition to Waldo's recreation program, walking and biking to school help students achieve that daily goal. According to SBAC figures, approximately 50 children ride the bus to community school. The majority of children walk, ride bikes, or ride in a car. School board staff estimates with the closure of Waldo School that 163 children will ride the bus either to Shell or Lake Forest. The bus routes, particularly those to Shell, will result in longer ride times, which means more time sitting. Studies also show that school buses contribute to air pollution both outside and inside the bus. Inside the bus, they can be 4 to 12 times higher than ambient air measurements. Putting 163 children on school buses has been presented as a budgetary win, resulting in an increase of state funding in approximately $45,000. Presented in this manner as a total, quote, savings of $41,000, it's as though revenue is prioritized over student health, and that's not a value that Waldo is willing to support. Waldo Community School is the site of many health initiatives. Waldo Community School has an award-winning garden in partnership with the Florida Farm to School project, placing 3rd in the state of Florida during a Farm to School Week competition. The gardening club is part of our after-school program. Last year, Waldo Community School was designated as a bronze school by the USDA Healthier U.S. School Challenge program, recognizing excellence in nutrition and physical activity. There are only 4,790 bronze schools in the United States, and there are only 3 others in Alachua County. Waldo branch of the Alachua County Library District serves Waldo and northeastern Alachua County. The Library District is currently in the process of remodeling a former commercial building to expand the library's physical presence and offerings. Melanie Altman, Senior Library Specialist, is also one of Waldo's representatives on the District Advisory Council. There's a strong partnership between the Waldo Library and Waldo Community School. The library houses computer and homework resources, which are especially important for children who may not have access to a computer at home. The librarians also schedule activities at the school to promote reading and open access to books and materials. The library has limited hours on evenings and on weekends, however, meaning children coming home from Shell Elementary on the bus or after-school program may lack the opportunity to go to the library. The availability and accessibility to the county library system will be significantly reduced with the closure of Waldo Community School. The new library location is approximately 0.1 mile from the Waldo Community School. For comparison, Hawthorne Library Branch is a half mile from Shell Elementary School. The nearest library branch to Lake Forest is over a mile from that school site. The closing of Waldo Community School will have a negative impact on Waldo's library and on the children who use those library services. There's a reason why state statutes require coordination between school board and city council. We are meant to be partners in our mutual success. By our count, there have been at least 5 missed opportunities to discuss the potential closure of Waldo Community School in the last year. Since none of the factors presented as justification for Waldo's closure are new, except for the standardized test scores, which are not, it remains a question to us as to why an issue of such importance has had such limited opportunity for public input and discussion. First, the school board is required to send Waldo the 5-year district's facilities work program prior to the adoption by the board. State law explicitly requires that this work program identify all anticipated school closures. And while the city did not receive this work program, it was of little consequence because neither the 13-14 work program nor the 14-15 work program identified Waldo Community School or any other school as being considered for closure. This seems to be a failure to follow the statutorily required procedures prior to a school closure. Next, annual school concurrency meetings of the staff working group and elected officials group were convened to prepare for and review the annual school concurrency report. Not once, either in preparation for or at these 3 meetings, was any mention made about closing Waldo Community School. With the release of the FADS report in December and January, surely at the elected officials meeting barely more than a month before the announced intent to close Waldo School, district staff must have been considering such a closure. It is a clear failure to carry out the intent of these meetings as set forth in our interlocal agreement. Also, as part of the interlocal agreement, the Schools Planning Advisory Committee is required to be convened in consideration of new school locations and school closures. This has been done twice in the past 10 years. In the past, SPAC recommendations have been presented to the school board well in advance of decisions. On March 17th, I was here with the City of Waldo to alert the school board about the requirement under the interlocal agreement to initiate the SPAC process regarding school closures. After 2 meetings, one on April 14th, the month after the notification, and another one as requested by the SPAC on April 30th, the SPAC was able to make an informed, creative, and responsive recommendation that addresses the need to keep our rural, small-town schools in light of an ever-increasing push towards an urban schools model. That was the result of 2 weeks. Imagine the innovation, coordination, and results that could have happened if a transparent public process was initiated 6 months ago. The closure of Waldo Community School will create an education desert in eastern Alachua County. There will be only one East County elementary school outside urbanized Gainesville to serve the needs of rural communities. The red crosshatch, which extends from almost La Crosse all the way down past Micanopy on that big map on the wall, will all be Shell, one elementary school. These areas are the most in need of the strong social and community ties associated with a school. Closing Waldo Community School represents an almost complete disinvestment in rural eastern Alachua County by the school board. The City of Waldo requests that you leave Waldo and Shell open, and I had originally recommended for another year, but I really like Mr. Wade's 5-year plan, with the full resources that are planned for Shell. Use that time period to test whether the complement of resources being offered at Shell as part of the consolidation will work to enhance student achievement. We don't believe that Waldo, Shell, or any rural schools should have to be sacrificed to balance the budget. None of the rural cities should be forced into an adversarial position with one another to keep our schools. We are strong together because as what happens to one of us could happen to all of us. We need a new paradigm, a rural schools model founded in community, place-based education, and student achievement. We are not Gainesville. We should not be treated as such. Please invest in our community and our children. Honor a committed city that's had a school in continuous operation for 147 years. We're almost at our sesquicentennial. Be our partner by keeping Waldo Community School open. Thank you.
We appreciate your comments, your presentation. Thank you so much for taking that kind of time to pull all of that information together. Thank you so much. We are now at the point for board member and superintendent announcements. Mr. Hyatt.
Well, I had a chance to attend the Rise Above the Mark showing at J.J. Finley. That was sponsored by Finley, the Finley PTA Littlewood, and one other school. I don't have that written down, but there was a very good attendance and a lot of good questions for the district, and I appreciate those parents involved. Also, at J.J. Finley, later in the week, there was the 75th anniversary celebration, and probably the most impressive thing to me about that was the involvement in a very curricular way of the students who did a lot of historical research, and quite impressive. Also, we had the Community Education Forum at Newberry, and we had a good turnout, and that went well. Also, as been mentioned, 5th grade fun day. I think this is the first time that all schools had participated. There were 1,900 fifth graders in the same place, and it all worked like clockwork. And the for Mr. Wise and the entire and all of the physical education professionals did an incredible job with that. Also, I had a chance to go to the Shell Elementary, the Spring Fling, same day, a little bit later the same day, and that had included a concert by the Shell Chorus. Was quite good, and also I got a chance to tour their outdoor garden classroom. And then, of course, there was a big event Sunday, and I'm going to leave that for Ms. Griffin to talk about. But that would be it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hyatt. Mrs. Roy?
Thank you, Dr. McNeely. Many congratulations to our students in this county. Lately, they're winning things right and left, and so I'll just talk about a couple of things. This year, the East Side team swept the competition for Spanish language, as this year was the 18th time East Side has won first place in the state within the last 19 years. Also, French, not only did French win first place in their 4A district, they won first overall in the state. So congratulations to East Side, French and Spanish students and teachers. That's wonderful to keep that going, just like our math students. Also, I wanted to congratulate Eastside and Megan Matthew. A senior at Eastside student has been named the 2015 U.S. Presidential Scholar by the U.S. Department of Education. Only 141 high school seniors across the country have earned that designation. It is one of the highest honors for a high school student in the nation. She's a senior in the IB program, and Mr. Charbonnet, her principal, said that she has a rare combination of intelligence, work ethic, curiosity, and compassion. And I have no doubt that her contributions to society will be significant. I also wanted to mention her Eastside biology teacher, Ann Nichols, a friend of mine, former colleague, will be receiving an invitation to go with her to Washington to accept this award because Megan Matthews selected Mrs. Nichols as her most inspiring teacher. Congratulations to Megan and her family and her school and her teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Roy. Mrs. Griffin?
Since it's getting late, I'm going to hold mine until the end of the meeting, and I just wanted to, I will mention what you said at the end.
Okay.
Dr. Roberts?
Well, I'm sort of feeling the way Mrs. Griffin's feeling, but of course there's a number of things I'd just like to add here. And of course, I want to recognize, first of all, today being National Teachers Day, to really commend all of our teachers in Alachua County for the work that they do and the contribution that they give each day to all the boys and girls in the county. We cannot say enough to commend our teachers, and I want to express that openly. But also I'd like to also recognize that there are 5 of our high schools, once again, have been listed among the best in the nation by the Washington Post. Eastside High School, GHS, Buchholz, Santa Fe, Newberry. All in the 2015 High School Challenge are listed. And I really want to recognize them and the staff, the leadership at those schools, and more importantly, the students for their outstanding performance. This is a very big thing, and we need to just recognize that this is a very important thing. We're truly a school system on the rise, in a community on the rise. I also want to recognize that indeed, next week, 54 of our 7th grade students will be recognized as state-level winners in the Duke Talent Identification Program. And again, for their high scores on the college entrance examination. Even though it's late, but I really want to take this moment to recognize them. So this is very important. This is about our students and their accomplishment, and we need to celebrate these very great moments. I want to congratulate Gainesville High School students, Dylan Ankerson, Stephen Carter, and Blake Burge, who participated in the 16th Annual National High School Moat Court Competition in Washington, D.C. And Dylan actually won first place overall in that competition, and Stephen took third place among the petitioners. So this is about our students once more participating in these events. We mentioned the math already, so I won't mention that again with regards to the Department of Education, Buchholz High School. I also want to recognize a very outstanding recognition given to the Finley Elementary School. Again, this is a very, I believe, prestigious recognition, and I congratulate Kim Greggs and the staff and parents of Finley, who actually took part in what is called a homework help program that occurs at the Horizon apartment building. As a matter of fact, I went out there and saw them in action. I was very, very impressed in what teachers have dedicated themselves to do without pay, on their own time, to actually help children's work, and parents as well, work on homework. And I thought this was very commendable, and I want to congratulate the entire staff and Mrs. Valdez for that work. So, Madam Chair, board members, there's a lot more in here that I would like to share, but of course I want to recognize those. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. It has been a busy 2 weeks since the last board meeting, and I've enjoyed visiting many different events. Some of my colleagues have mentioned many of the things that I attended as well, and so I will certainly not repeat those. But I was able to go back in time to the discovery of Florida with the explorer Ponce de Leon with others. And based on the performance that the students at Duval Fine Arts Academy gave, I certainly renewed the history of our wonderful state. So congratulations to Mrs. Terrell, the after-school staff, and all of the students that participated in that great performance. I had an opportunity to be a judge at the Kate Weber cooking contest on last Friday at Gainesville High School. Wow, what an event. And I enjoyed it immensely because I got to eat and taste, and everything was delicious. I want to say congratulations to Naya Miller, Hannah Shola, Darius Grimmich, LaKendra Kegler, and Jonathan Glenn. All of those students had fantastic submissions of different dishes, and all of them were certainly scrumptious. Many thanks to the instructor, Don, help me, Karen McCann. Don Beckert, and the reason I could say Karen helped me, she too was a judge at that event. Thank you to Mr. Shelnut, who came on board with us and enjoyed the many dishes. Finally, I'm taking an opportunity to congratulate some other students at Gainesville High School. Congratulations to Coach McNeely and student athletes for the outstanding work at Saturday's Class A State Track and Field Championships. The following athletes were medal winners, and there are 6 of them. Blake Lowry, who placed 6th in the 2-mile, thank you, Coach, meter race. He helped me with that one. Jeremy Lawson, 6th place in the long jump. Nia Flagg, 5th place in the 100-meter race. Anaya Williams, who placed 8th in the 100-meter race and 7th in the 200-meter race. And then finally, the 4x100-meter relay team consisting of LaTanya Herbert, Anaya Williams, Alexa Covert, and Nia Flagg. They were silver medalists in their relay race. And I know we speak a lot about all of the wonderful academics that we have going on in this district, and I applaud those students. But I also wanted to recognize the students who are also athletes as well. It took a lot of endurance for those kids to do all of those things, so congratulations. And seeing no other lights, I'd like to move now to citizen input. And we ask that citizens who will be coming to the podium, that we are going to request that you keep your comments to approximately 3 minutes. And the first person I have is Vanessa Anthony. Vanessa Anthony. All right. Next, we have Mr. Khalid Blunt.
Good evening.
Good evening.
State your name for the record. Okay, I agree with you. I'm Khalid Blunt. It's been quite a few weeks since I last spoke to you, so I'm going to repeat the quote I gave you then. This is a quote by by Congressman Joshua Giddings in 1850, speaking to a public assembly. And he said, quote, "There was great delicacy exhibited and had been for many years previously in regard to the agitation of any question touching on the institution of slavery. And the people of the free and slave states apparently felt that silence on any disturbances, silence on the subject of slavery was necessary upon every citizen who desired the continuation of the Union." End quote. Now, the reason Giddings was saying this because he was challenged about his previous comment. He said that the first Seminole War, that's 1816 to 1819, and the second Seminole War, 1835 to 1842, were slave rebellions. And he was challenged on this. These people said, where is this in the historical record? Where is this in the official documents and the news reports? And that's why he said that about the treatment of anything to do with slavery. And this was particularly after 1804 and the Haitian Revolution, because slave owners in the South never stopped shaking in their boots from that moment forward, that any word of slave self-actualization would get to the slaves themselves. In fact, General Jessup, Thomas Jessup, who was the federal general leading in the Seminole War, said, "You can be sure," quote, "you can be sure this is a Negro, not an Indian war," end quote. And if, quote, "not speedily put down, the South, not just Florida, but the entire South, will feel the effects of it on the slave population before the end of this season." So he's talking about the word of this affecting other enslaved people in other states. And indeed, the maroon communities in Florida, and you hear a lot about Fort Mose, but Fort Mose was one of a collection. Fort Mose, Mulatto Girls Town, Pilac Likaha, Negro Town, Angola, Negro Fort, Suwannee, Manatee. These were the major runaway towns that persisted, some back to the Spanish period. And people from these towns continuously went up to the other slave states to foment rebellion. So all this history is cast aside, and I'll wind up quickly. All this history was revised in its time. And so we continue to have a revision today about the supposed acceptance of captive Africans of their condition. That desecrates 1 million unmarked graves. People resisted throughout.
Thank you so much. Dr. Roberts, we are now at the consent agenda.
Madam.
Oh,
Are the 15 minutes up?
Mrs. McCann,
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Dr. Roberts, Madam Chair, board members, I have been to every school board meeting, and I have attended the forum and listened to all of the Waldo parents and the teachers. And I don't think we're comparing apples to apples here when we talk about putting children on a bus for 3 miles versus putting on a bus for over 20 miles. It's a big difference. And so as I've listened, I've worked all over the district. I've been in 4 different schools. We have phenomenal teachers. We have phenomenal programs throughout the district. And I do think kids adapt. But this particular school, these people are really attached. This is part of their community. And I have to listen and say to myself, would I put my child on a bus to go over 20 miles a day? I wouldn't do it. I think we have to personalize this. I think that we need to take a step back. We've been listening for weeks. I remember when my son started kindergarten, and he was on a bus with K through 5. And I heard the worst thing any parent and any teacher wants to hear. About the 3rd week, he said, I don't want to go to school. And when we worked it out, and he eventually was, after a day or 2 at home working this out, he didn't want to get on the bus because the kids were loud and they were screaming, and he said, Mommy, sometimes they say bad words. I'm thinking about kids being on a bus with kids with iPhones, 17 and 18-year-olds. I'm very concerned about the exposure that these children would have. I don't think socially and emotionally it's right. I would consider, if I were you, giving the community another year. That would be a compromise, allowing them to work together with their community and try to come up with some plan or come up with some ideas. And if that doesn't work, the very least is they need to be assured, if those kids are getting on the bus, that they're going to be safe. So that's my opinion, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mrs. McCann. Superintendent Roberts.
Madam Chair, board members, the superintendent recommends that the school board approve the consent agenda as described in items 1 through 7.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Griffin and second by Mrs. Roy. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Dr. McNeely, when we get to the action items, is there any way that we could move
I'm going to
number 3
already do that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're now at the action items, and I would like to move number 3, action item 3, to be first, which are our administrative appointments. We do have some people who need to be at schools in the morning.
Yes.
All right.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. So there are 4 individuals at this time that the superintendent wants to bring to you for your approval. At the next meeting, we'll bring some additional names. But for now, the first one, and I'm going to ask each person after I've presented them to come and just make a brief remark about this appointment, and I will go through all 4 of them, and then we can take an action. The first person that I'd like to bring before you is an administrative appointment for Mrs. Judy Black, who is former principal at Charles Elementary, and of course she is going to be appointed as the principal of the Early Learning Academy at Duval. Mrs. Judy Black received her bachelor's degree in elementary education from Florida International University and her master's degree in educational leadership from Nova Southeastern University. She began her career as an elementary school teacher in Monroe County, Florida. You were there before I was there, where she taught for 10 years. She then came to Alachua County and taught at Wiles Elementary and Charles Elementary. Mrs. Black became a curriculum resource teacher at Williams Elementary, assistant principal at Sidney Lanier Center, the principal of Prairie View Academy, and she was named principal of Charles Elementary in 2007. Madam Chair, I'm pleased to recommend the appointment of Mrs. Judy Black as the principal of the Early Learning Academy, effectively July 1, 2015.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Ms. Black, congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts, and also Madam Chair and the school board members. And thank you actually for putting us a little ahead, because I was at my school at 6:30 this morning and got a little droopy-eyed. I am thrilled to accept this position. As some of you may know, I was considering retiring at the end of this year, but when presented with this, it just reinvigorated me and my enthusiasm, and my degree specialized in early childhood. So this is very, very near and dear to my heart, and I can tell you that I will work tirelessly to make sure that this gets off the ground and is very successful. I'm thrilled with the position, so I thank you for the appointment. I thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Roberts.
Mrs. Black, do you have family?
Do I? I don't have them here tonight, no.
I'm so sorry to
My
phrase it
sons
that
are
way.
home
Do
with
you
their
have
babies.
family with you tonight?
And since we had to go over to the other meeting this afternoon at 4 o'clock, I said to my husband, stay home, relax, and I'll be home as soon as I can.
Sure.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
The next appointment, Madam Chair, board members, is Mr. Jim Kuhn, who received both his bachelor's degree and master's degree in elementary education from the University of Florida. Later, he also earned a specialist degree in educational leadership from UF. Jim began his career as a teacher at Stephen Foster Elementary School in 1995, where he spent 6 years as a classroom teacher, 4 years as the behavioral resource teacher, and 5 years as the assistant principal. In 2010, he became the principal of that school, and I'm pleased and very honored to, Madam Chair, to recommend Jim as the principal for Metcalf Elementary School effective July 1st, 2015, a school in which we are expecting to have a global magnet program. Sorry about that.
I know.
And of course, he has had experience already in established magnet schools, and of course, the STEM magnet that we have at Foster. And Jim, we're very, very pleased that you have accepted this responsibility.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, properly moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts, Madam Chair, Board. I'd just like to take an opportunity to say how excited I am about this. It is bittersweet. I started my career at Foster and have been there ever since. And in the back of my mind, I thought I would retire there, but am really excited about this new challenge and going to a new school and spending time getting to know the teachers and students and community members and work on the development of this magnet so we can continue the great work that's happened at Metcalf and move forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Mrs. Pat Phillips, who received her bachelor's degree in elementary education and her master's in educational leadership from the University of Florida. Pat began her career as an English teacher at Gainesville High School, followed by 10 years teaching English in Coral Gables, Dade County. Upon returning to Alachua County, she taught for 7 years at Buell Hole High School and was then appointed to the assistant principalship of the Professional Academies Magnet at Lofton High School. In 2010, she was appointed principal of Metcalf Elementary School. Madam Chair, I'm pleased to announce the appointment of Ms. Pat Phillips as the principal of Terwilliger Elementary School effective July 1st, 2015.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, congratulations, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Roberts and board members. I am also very excited about this new challenge in my career. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to continue my career. 20 years of high school, and now I'm in elementary, and I am definitely loving it. So I am going to enjoy following Ms. McNeil and all the great work that she has done, and continue improving instruction and achievement as I've tried to do at Metcalf Elementary. We made great gains and strides there, and I want to take that with me to Terwilliger and keep going for students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mrs. Lynn Mcnea, who received both her bachelor's degree in elementary education and her master's in ed leadership from the University of Florida. Lynn began her career as a teacher at Terwilliger Elementary School, where she taught for 3 years. Mrs. McNeely spent the following 10 years teaching at the Alachua Elementary School, and then served as a curriculum resource teacher at Talbot and assistant principal for curriculum at High Springs Community School. She was appointed principal of Terwilliger Elementary School in 2009. Madam Chair, I am pleased to recommend the appointment of Mrs. Lynn Mcnea to the principal of High Spring Community School effective July 1st, 2015.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Griffin and Mrs. Roy. Discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Roberts, board members, Madam Chair. I really look forward to working with the students and the staff and the family members in the community in which I live. That's exciting for me. And it's a trip back in time. I've been away for 6 years, and I would also like to say that I am most thankful for the 6 years that I've been at Terwilliger. Greatest experience of my life thus far, and I just hope that the experiences get better and better. I'll do my very best to make sure that everything is great for High Springs Community School.
Congratulations. And I see you have staff with you tonight.
They surprised me.
Very important, of course, High Spring Community School. The community realizes this is a K-8 school, which is the only K-8 school we have in the district. And this is one of the reasons, as we've gone out and we've had the site reviews, listened to the students, and believe me, students gave us some great input, as well as teachers and parents and community leaders. I truly believe that, again, as we look across the district, we have a right fit for that school. And we were very concerned about whether or not we'll go outside to find someone. I was very pleased that we were able to find someone who really is from that community, who has been at that school, and really is a right fit for that school. Thank you again, Lynn. And the final person I'd like to bring to you, of course, I'm very, very pleased, again, to announce to you Mrs. Jenny Wise earned her bachelor's degree in history with a minor in education from the University of Florida. She was later awarded a master's degree in instruction and curriculum, and a specialist degree also from the University of Florida. She began her career as a social studies teacher at Lincoln Middle School, later teaching at High Spring Community School. Jeannie became assistant principal for curriculum at Westwood Middle School and was then the appointed principal of Kanapaha Middle School in 2000. So she's been around there for a while. And I happen to know this as I've been to the school several times and see the work she has done there in terms of setting the culture, which is very, very strong at that school. Madam Chair, I'm delighted to announce that I'm pleased to recommend the appointment of Mrs. Jenny Wise as one of the Executive Director for School Supervision, beginning July 1st, 2015. And I'd like to say it is critical because she comes with a wealth of experience. And of course, I just love her temperament and her calmness and her focus that she has. And I truly believe she'll do a great job. She'll do a great job in supporting the leadership at all of our schools. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. A motion.
So moved. Oh, I tried to and I couldn't do it.
Oh, second.
Thank you. It's been moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, Mrs. Wise, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Roberts, Madam Chair, board members, it is truly bittersweet to leave a job that I have deeply, deeply loved. I will go forward with my plans to one day be buried underneath the giant oak tree in the courtyard, no matter where I end my career. But I want you to know that I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm excited about the chance to work with assistant principals, principals, and schools across the district, and I'm committed to giving 110% every single day to do the best job that I can. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further comments, Dr. Roberts?
Well, Madam Chair, board members, as I mentioned earlier, that this is the first wave because there are a number of other positions to be filled, and of course I'd like to bring that to you in a timely manner. Thank you.
Okay. Action item number 1, approval of the contract with the Bailey Group. Mr. Rella.
Thank you, Madam Chair, board members. The Insurance Committee met last month with the purpose of reviewing proposals for our fringe benefits administration. And just as background, that's our dental, vision, health, or not health, life, and cancer policies. Those are all employee paid. There's no cost to the district. The result of that meeting was the unanimous vote in favor of the Bailey Group to take over those services for the district. And that's obviously the reason you have the contract in front of you at this point. Mark and his team, I really can't say enough about what they've done on the health side. They're really doing a wonderful job, and we feel like this contract represents a huge savings to the employees of this district. There's no discussion.
No recommended action. If you give us
the superintendent recommends that the board approve the contract with the Bailey Group to administer IRS Section 125 cafeteria plan as presented.
So moved.
Second. It's been properly moved and second. Discussion. Dr. Paulson.
Well, our insurance committee does a tremendous job. I was very concerned about this because we've been with this other company for a long time. And I was concerned about the savings. I was concerned about a seamless transition for our employees, including myself. It's, these things, it's important. And I've talked to our staff on it, and I feel confident that we'll save money. And I also talked to Mark Bailey this afternoon because I wanted to make sure that the products that we are offering our employees now will still be there, and they'll be guaranteed to be able to keep those products. And if they're already, say, in some kind of a situation where they're getting reimbursed, they will continue to be able to get this reimbursement. So I felt better about that because this is a big change.
It's
and again,
huge.
I think I trust our insurance committee 100%, Mrs. McCann. It's when they vote on something and they want it, I think it's a good idea. The track record is impeccable. So I just wanted to make sure I said that because I had to go make some checking on this because I want to make sure it is seamless for our employees, and I feel very confident it will be, and I feel really confident in the projections that I've been handed by the staff, and I think it is a good move for our district.
Thank you, Dr. Paulson. Mr. Hyatt?
I just want to say thank you for the report. The numbers look great, and saving our people money is paramount, and appreciate the hard work and getting us clear numbers. Thank you.
It's certainly a big undertaking, but we felt the savings that we could provide to our employees, it was worth the effort that we're going to have to put in to make sure this goes well. We've met with Mark and his team a few times, and obviously plan to meet with him over the summer to make it as seamless as possible. Obviously, like I said, it's a huge undertaking, but we feel pretty confident we'll be able to get it done. So.
Can I say something?
Dr. Paulson.
I appreciate you meeting with me and making me feel good about this situation, because it is a big move, and I think you did a good job with that. I think Mrs. McCann, you do a good job, and I think we're continue to head in the right direction. Our health insurance has been better than anybody I know anywhere. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Paulson. All in favor? Aye. All right, and all opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Attorney Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are actually two parts to this next one. This is amendments to Policy 2460, the Exceptional Student Education Policy, in which we're going to be incorporating revisions to the Exceptional Student Education Policies and Procedures Manual, which commonly called the SP&P, for the years 2415 through 2016-17. There are two parts to the policy. One is that we're incorporating that SP&P into the policy itself, and the other is there's some changes to the language in the policy that are reflective of legislative changes that were made last year, including parents' rights to bring other adults to meetings and working with professionals in the schools. And so at this time, the superintendent recommends that the school board approve the proposed amendments to Policy 2460, Exceptional Student Education, and the 2014 through 2015 to 2016-2017 Exceptional Student Education Policies and Procedures Manual as presented for advertising.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and second. Is there discussion? Dr. Paulson.
Oh, I don't have it. I just didn't turn it on.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. We are now back to our final citizen input, and we would ask that our citizens keep their comments to 3 minutes. I'm sorry, Mr. Carlisle Blunt.
Hello. I have to say that the history I'm trying to present is just too tremendous for 3-minute snippets, so I want to urge again that people read the book by Dr. Larry E. Rivers, President Emeritus of Fort Valley State University, Rebels and Runaways, Slave Resistance in 19th Century Florida, and also the annotated bibliography from Greenwood Publishing in 2004, American Indian and African American People, Communities, and Interactions. Another comment about the First Seminole War was by Representative Henry Baldwin in 1818 from Pennsylvania's 14th District. He said the Georgia military under Andrew Jackson, quote, in fact, was suppressing an insurrection, a rebellion of slaves aided by an Indian force, all assembled and armed for the purpose hostile to the country. The point that I keep repeating these is that this refusal to grant to the institution of slavery and to its victims the gravitas of being significant in any regional or national struggle extends down to this day, including those who insist that the Civil War was not about slavery. And I'll speak on that again another time. But Dr. Rivers spoke on so many important things in this book. For instance, the notion of the Underground Railroad and Follow the Drinking Gourd, the North Star. It was not a flow only northward. Many runaways came down to Florida because of its history of having been a refuge for runaways all the way back into the Spanish period. And many connected with black sailors at Florida's port cities and got off this continent, especially after 1834 when the British Bahamas were no longer a slave area, when the British abolished slavery. So there were many people who came. You could say that the runaways into Florida had an Atlantic worldview and understood the use of water to escape from slavery. You always hear about Harriet Tubman and others getting people smuggled in wagons. I think a lot of young children think there's actually subway tunnels or something. But the Underground Railroad was overground, but it was hidden. And it was a series of secret connections. But there were many people that used water that left on the ocean to to escape. And there were sailors, white, black, and otherwise, connecting with runaways in Florida's ports and telling them about the affairs of the whole world. So these people had much more of a view, of a global view, than enslaved persons in other states.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say that Dr. Rivers was a wonderful professor at Florida A&M. So thank you for bringing that information. I would like for Ms. Susan Thomas to come.
Hey, I am Susan Thomas. Thank you again for letting me come up here this evening. I just had a question in regards to when we might hear if any amendments have been made to Dr. Roberts' proposal to the board. Some of us were confused on whether that would be tonight, if that would be on the 19th, or if that would be between tonight and the 19th, if anything was to come out of this.
Attorney Moore?
Madam Chair, if it's a board proposal, it'll be at the meeting on the 19th.
Thank you.
Are there any board member requests? Mrs. Griffin?
I promised you that I'd wait until the end, so I have to fill my promise. There's several things that I was able to experience over the past 2 weeks. The first was the GHS campus cleanup. Me and 200 of my favorite students planted plants and did mulch and pulled weeds for an afternoon at Gainesville High School. It really turned out really nice. I also went to J.J. Finley in Duval, and the Adams family, Buholtz Drama did the Adams family last week. It was really good. I'm sorry that y'all missed, if you missed it, Sunday was the last show. And last is Oh to Be a Kid Again was Sunday evening. It was perfect weather. Of the past 5 years, this was the best weather that we've had for that event, and I saw several of my friends from Waldo at that event. It's just a good time that our staff and everyone that works with us and for us can come together and just have fun. And it did raise money. I don't have the totals yet. Hopefully I'll have those at the next meeting. And then I had one request. We scheduled another a budget workshop on Friday, May 22nd at 8:30. And we also have a budget workshop scheduled in June, 2 weeks later. And I don't know if we need both of those. We won't have anything from the Senate, from the legislators. They won't be reconvened until the beginning of June. We won't know anything about their budget proposal until later in June. So I would like to request that we cancel the June 2nd budget workshop, since we're doing one 2 weeks ahead. That's it.
Did you say June 2nd?
Yes, we have a budget workshop scheduled for June 2nd at 4:30, and we also have one for May 22nd at 8:30 in the morning.
Okay. Dr. Paulson?
I think, I want to be clear, when I see the budget workshops, I think it is a time when we can talk and actually learn about what we're doing in the budgeting process. And I was talking to Mr. Ward previously, and I thought it could be an hour. It's an interactive type situation where you can ask questions, we can ask questions, actually get into depth about things. So when we do make decisions on the budget, all of us understand it better. So I think it's beneficial if we continue to have those two meetings, because I think it'd help everybody in the budget process.
Any other comments on that issue?
When did you say that was? On Friday, the 22nd at 8:30?
No, that's a Tuesday.
8:30 in the morning,
Oh,
Friday,
wait a
May
minute.
22nd.
Oh,
May 22nd at 8:30, because we have an executive session at 10:30, yeah. So this would allow us to have 2 hours for the budget.
Can I make it?
And
Forgot,
also,
okay.
I think, Dr. Paulson, you mentioned to me, oh no, it was the 2nd, excuse me. You said you were out of town the 1st.
Right.
Which is a rural development workshop.
Yeah, I have, when I check my family, it's Probably first meeting I've ever
That's,
missed.
that's a different one, and
I
that's gonna come up next. I'm gonna address that one, but we have here now a discussion and a decision to be made about, whether, we're going to cancel one of the workshops, the one on May 22nd, because we have one then 2 weeks later, just 2 weeks later, and as you know, what just went on in Tallahassee, there's certainly no evidence of anything being completed.
Can I address?
Dr. Paulson.
It's not what's going on in Tallahassee. It's like Mrs. Roy said, she'd like to go over things like on the fund object. These are things that we can have an interactive discussion with people in the finance department. It's not even putting the budget together. It's having these questions you have, like, what is it, like in the FADS report. In the FADS report, they said, look at purchase services, was it, or other
One
services?
of those, yes.
You'd say, in that meeting, and I don't think it should be 2 hours, it could be an hour, say, what exactly makes up this object? And then that could be most of the discussion for that day. And then Mrs. Roy asked some things that she wanted to go over in a fund object. These kinds of things are important for the growth of us as a board. It's not that we're putting together a budget, because remember I said that Mr. Ward, he has a lot of work, and Mr. Rella has a lot of work. We're not going to ask them to give us a dog and pony show. That takes hours and hours of their time. But for us to just get in a discussion, I mean, I've been doing this thing for 20 years. But I think all of us as a board, if we could discuss things, we have a greater understanding from that. And it's just something to say, what is in this? And you could take an hour on just one of those objects. And then you have an idea later. Come back at June 2nd, it could be something else. And by the time you're doing this, even if you did it, the recommendation from FADS, was to meet monthly. But I think us meeting as a board is a lot more productive than meeting individually. First of all, unless you've been doing budgets, you don't know what to ask. And so if we're in there together and we sit there and we'll learn, just like FADS wants us to learn. I think, Dr. Roberts, am I correct on that? That was one of the recommendations.
You're correct.
Do you think it's a possibility that we could have a compromise, and if we're going to maintain and keep that meeting on the docket, then I think that we need to designate, as we've done with some other meetings where we turn in our questions prior to, maybe 2 per board member, and because we do have another meeting, huge meeting, right after that one. And we certainly want to be fresh when we go into the second meeting. So is that a okay compromise that we would submit to Mr. Ward and Mr. Rella, the designated questions, so they can be prepared, and that we won't be rambling? Is that a possibility? Mrs. Roy?
Thank you. I don't think I can put my finger on exactly what question I would ask. I want something in front of me, the fund object report, to ask about specific items. And like Dr. Paulson said, this is a learning experience for all of us. I've been on the board 11 years, and I still don't understand, because I've gotten the runaround, I'm sorry to say that, and unclear explanation, let's put it that way. I would like to have an interactive process where we can all get an explanation that we understand and is clear. I went to the FSBA budget workshops. I've been 3 times to hear the budget workshop, and it is really a confusing issue, and I think we need both of them, and that's just what I think. And I really, really, really want the one on the 22nd, where we all can learn something from Mr. Ward's answers.
Thank you, Mrs. Roy. Dr. Roberts, and then Dr. Paulson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought, again, from the requests made at the last board meeting, that it would be worthwhile to provide that kind of a training. I also discussed this with Mr. Ward, especially we have new board members on the board as well. And I said from the very beginning, it's important to me that each of the board members are well informed and be able to understand the decisions they're going to make. And budget is a big, big part of that decision. So I understand that very well. We're prepared to do that on the 22nd. And of course, that is intended to be an interactive walking through different aspects of the reports that you receive, so you can know exactly how to read those reports and understand what it's saying. The June meeting, again, as we get back, as we talk about allocations and those kinds of things, we're prepared to do that. So the superintendent will go either way, but I'm in favor of us having that training.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Dr. Paulson.
I don't think I can say it any better. He just said it. I think the superintendent's exactly right. And I agree with him.
Mr. Hyatt.
It's already scheduled. I think what Dr. Paulson has laid out as far as a chance, where finance isn't going to have to put together a presentation where we can go through and really get our hands dirty a little bit. And you know, for me, I would like to understand more about the budget and the process. And so for me, I think it would be helpful. So I would be in favor of keeping it. I certainly understand Ms. Griffin's request, but for me personally, it would probably be a good thing.
Thank you, Mr. Hyatt. And I want to remind you that, and maybe it's not going to be in conjunction with what the finance department will be helping us through on May 22nd, but we will have May 22nd, we will have June 2nd, and we will have August 19th. So with those 3 dates, hopefully all 5 of us, including Dr. Roberts, if he should have any questions, will be taken care of. So with that,
Dr. McNeely, one more.
oh, all right.
I think unless somebody's talking.
Let's go with Dr. Paulson and then Roberts.
Well, I was better off following him last time. I mean, what I'm saying is I think, just go back to the FADS report. They recommend that we meet monthly. Now, if you meet individually, I don't think you'll get as much, everybody won't get as much as if we meet as a group. I think, and you set a time limit on it. We don't want to waste their time. They got enough to do. We just want to, the training is invaluable. And you know, you're not going to learn everything this year. But in a year's time, everybody, I think will all have a very good working knowledge of the budget. And that's beneficial to the running of the school district.
All right, thank you for your comments. Dr. Roberts?
Madam Chair, as I've said from I've been here, I said transparency is very important. I want to make sure that my board knows that there is a very clear, transparent process. They need to understand it. And again, I would just want to be respectful of the fact that there are questions being asked and we need to supply those answers. So with that being said, move on.
We have a consensus that we will maintain that meeting on the 22nd of May, and also the one that will be coming up on June 2nd. The meeting on June 2nd that we are now moving from June 1st, due to a conflict, please reschedule that Monday meeting that we had scheduled for June 1st to June 2nd. And we will be meeting at 9:30 a.m. until approximately 11:30 a.m. Now, did I understand the other meeting that we have on that day will be, what time?
4:30.
4:30. So we have 2 major meetings on that day.
Can you repeat the time again, please?
All right, 9:30 to 11:30 on Tuesday, June 2nd, and that will be the Rule Development Workshop. Mr. Attorney Moore.
Madam Chair, if it's going to be only 2 hours, I just suggest you bring your speed listening ears, because I'll have to go, there's a
Well,
lot of stuff to go through.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was the time that I was given.
Right. I mean, it was, we'll make it. The Code of Student Conduct doesn't appear to have any changes coming this year, so there's some things that may not take some of the time that it has in the past. But just so you know, there's a lot of updated policies from Neola that we have to get through.
We'll have a working lunch. What about that?
We might run late, and I'll be running from an IEP at Fort Clark, so hopefully I won't be late. But
Okay.
I have a
Doc,
conflict.
Mrs. Griffin?
I have a conflict that morning also, so.
Okay.
I'll see what I can do.
Well, you'll let us know. Let us know. All right, Dr. Paulson?
No, I'm sorry about it. But we had to change it. I mean, I can always, if it's better for Mrs. Griffin, I can get my questions sent in. I'd like to be here, but I don't want it to be at the expense of another board member.
I'll let the two of you work on that. Thank you so much. If there are no other announcements or requests, this meeting is adjourned.